The Dominion had conquered 17 star systems. They were the masters of this part of the galaxy. No species had ever defeated them. No species had ever tried. Their method was simple. They would appear with a massive fleet. They would send a message demanding surrender, and every single time the target species would bow down and accept their fate. Why fight when you cannot win? That was what every conquered species believed. High Commander Al stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. His skin reflected the blue light of the holographic displays around him. His 4 eyes studied the small planet on the screen. It was a blue and green world, third from its yellow sun. The natives called it Earth. "What do we know about these creatures?" Al asked his science officer. "They call themselves humans, Commander. They are a young species. They have only recently developed space travel. Their technology is primitive. They fight among themselves constantly. They have thousands of different nations, languages, and religions. They are divided and weak." Al made a sound that was his species' version of laughter. "Perfect. They will fall within days. Send the standard message." The communications officer pressed several buttons. The message was sent on every frequency the humans used. It reached every radio, every television, every phone, every computer on the planet Earth. The message was cold and clear. "Species designation, human. You have 72 of your planetary rotations to surrender unconditionally. Your world will be harvested. Your population will be and processed. Resistance is non-optimal. This message will not repeat." 3,000 warships hung in space behind Earth's moon. Each ship was larger than any building humans had ever constructed. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city in seconds. Together, they could burn the entire planet to ash. Al waited. He had done this many times before. He knew what would happen next. The humans would panic. Their leaders would argue with each other. Some would try to negotiate. Some would try to fight. In the end, they would all surrender. They always did. But something strange happened. The humans did panic at first. There was chaos in the streets of every city. People screamed. People cried. People prayed to their gods. But then something changed. Something shifted. World leaders began to talk to each other. Not to argue. Not to blame. They talked to find a solution. Within hours, the United Nations called an emergency meeting. Every nation sent representatives. For the first time in human history, the entire world sat at the same table. The meeting lasted 4 hours. There were arguments. There were disagreements. But in the end, they reached a decision. It was unanimous. Secretary General was a tall woman from Nigeria. She had hair and kind eyes. But when she stood before the cameras, those kind eyes turned to steel. "People of Earth," she said, "we have received a message from beings beyond our world. They demand our surrender. They demand that we give up our homes, our families, our freedom, our future." She paused. The whole world was watching. 8 billion people held their breath. "The nations of Earth have discussed this demand. We have considered our options, and we have reached a decision." Her voice grew stronger. "Our answer is no. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever." The crowd that had gathered outside the UN building began to cheer. The cheering spread. In New York, in London, in Tokyo, in Mumbai, in Lagos, everywhere people cheered. Raised her hand for silence. "To the Dominion I have this message. You have made a mistake. You see a small planet. You see a young species. You see easy prey. But you do not understand what you are looking at." She leaned toward the camera. "Humanity has faced extinction before. Ice ages, plagues, world wars. Every time we survived. Every time we came back stronger. We are not easy prey. We are not sheep waiting for slaughter. We are humans, and we do not surrender." She straightened her back. "You want our world? Come and take it. We will be waiting." The transmission ended with a set of coordinates, a direct challenge. On his bridge, High Commander Al stared at the screen in confusion. He did not understand. This had never happened before. "Commander," his officer said nervously, "what do we do?" Al was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. "They are bluffing. They have no fleet. They have no weapons that can hurt us. They are primitive creatures making noise because they are afraid. When we attack, they will break. Should we wait for the 72 hours to end?" Al considered this. Part of him wanted to attack immediately, but the Dominion had rules, protocols. He would follow them. "We wait," he said. "Let them have their 72 hours. Let them realize how hopeless their situation is. When the time is up, we will show them what happens to those who defy the Dominion." But as the hours passed, strange reports reached the fleet. The humans were not spending their final hours in fear. They were not fighting each other. They were not trying to escape. They were preparing. Factories around the world began working day and night. Armies that had been enemies for centuries were joining together. Scientists were sharing secrets. Governments were cooperating. Al did not understand what he was seeing. He had conquered 17 species. He had never seen anything like this. He should have been worried. He should have taken it as a warning. But he did not. He was too proud, too confident, too certain of victory. That was his first mistake. It would not be his last. The world had 72 hours. 72 hours to prepare for an enemy they could not defeat. 72 hours to build weapons they did not have. 72 hours to save the human race. It was not enough time. Everyone knew it was not enough time. But humans did something they had never seen before. They stopped being enemies. Countries that had pointed nuclear weapons at each other for decades now worked together. Old hatreds were forgotten. Old wounds were forgiven. There was no time for anger. There was only time for survival. In a bunker deep beneath Geneva, Switzerland, the greatest military minds in human history gathered. American generals sat next to Russian commanders. Chinese admirals talked with Indian officers. Israeli soldiers planned beside Iranian troops. Admiral Wei of China stood at the front of the room. He was an old man with white hair and sharp eyes. He had been chosen to lead the new United Earth Defense Command. It was an honor he had never wanted. "We have no starships," he said, his voice calm and clear. "We have no weapons that can pierce their shields. We have no experience fighting an alien enemy. By every measure, we are already dead." The room was silent. Every officer knew he was right. But continued, "We have something they do not expect. We have 8 billion people who refuse to die on their knees. We have thousands of years of experience in war. We have scientists who can break any code, solve any problem. And we have something they have never faced before." He paused and looked around the room. "We have nothing to lose." The plan they created was desperate. It was crazy. It should not have worked. But it was all they had. Around the world, everything changed. Every car factory stopped making cars and started making weapons. Every electronics plant stopped making phones and started making missiles. Every construction company stopped building houses and started building bunkers. Nuclear weapons were taken apart and rebuilt into orbital defense platforms. Civilian rockets were fitted with explosives. The International Space Station was transformed into a command center. In a laboratory in Argentina, a young physicist named worked without sleep. She had been studying the radiation from the alien fleet. There was something strange about their shields, something that did not make sense. For 3 days she worked on the problem. She filled notebooks with calculations. She ran simulations on the most powerful computers in the world. And finally, at 4 in the morning on the second day, she found the answer. She ran to the communications room and demanded a connection to Admiral. "Admiral," she said, her voice shaking with excitement, "I know how to hurt them." Leaned forward, "Tell me." "Their shields are powered by a specific frequency of energy. If we hit them with a strong enough electromagnetic pulse at exactly the right frequency, Their shields will collapse, just for a moment. Maybe 3 or 4 seconds, but that should be enough. How do we create such a pulse? Smiled. We use Earth itself. If we connect every power plant on the planet into a single grid and release all the energy at once, we can create a pulse strong enough to reach the moon. It will destroy our entire electrical system. We will lose everything, but for 4 seconds their shields will be down. Was quiet for a moment, then he nodded. Do it. The order went out. Every country agreed. In 48 hours, the entire world was connected to a single power grid. The greatest engineering project in human history was completed in less than 2 days. But the plan needed more than just an EMP. They needed weapons. They needed soldiers. They needed people willing to die. They found them. Volunteers came from everywhere. Young people and old people, rich and poor. From every country, every culture, every religion. They came to fight for the only home humanity had ever known. Captain James Stone was a pilot from Texas. He had flown fighter jets for 20 years. Now he was learning to fly a converted cargo ship packed with explosives. This is a suicide mission, his commander told him. When the shields go down, you fly straight at their biggest ship and detonate. You will not survive. Stone nodded. I know. Why are you doing this? Stone thought about his daughter. She was 7 years old. She liked to draw pictures of horses and dream about growing up. He wanted her to have that chance. Because someone has to, he said. There were thousands like him. Thousands of ordinary people ready to give their lives for humanity. In the cities, people prepared for invasion. Soldiers set traps in every street. Civilians learned to fight. Weapons were hidden in every building, every house, every basement. In Tokyo, an old man who had survived World War II taught young people how to make explosives from household materials. In Moscow, grandmothers learned to use sniper rifles. In Lagos, children carried messages between resistance groups. Graffiti appeared on walls around the world, the same message in 1,000 languages. They picked the wrong planet. On the final night before the deadline, Secretary General addressed the world one last time. Tomorrow we face the greatest enemy humanity has ever known. Many of us will not survive, but we will not go quietly. We will not beg for mercy. We will fight with everything we have, and if we fall, we will fall standing up. She raised her fist. For Earth, for humanity, for our children and their children, we fight. Across the world, 8 billion voices answered. We fight. In his ship behind the moon, High Commander Al heard the transmission. He still did not understand, but for the first time he felt something he had never felt before. A tiny whisper of doubt. The 72 hours ended at midnight. High Commander Al stood on his bridge and gave the order. 3,000 warships moved toward Earth. Their engines glowed like angry stars. Their weapons powered up with a sound like thunder. Begin the conquest, Al commanded. Burn their defenses, break their will, show them the price of defiance. The fleet advanced past the moon. Earth grew larger on their screens. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds, a beautiful world that would soon belong to the Dominion. Then the humans struck. A wave of missiles rose from Earth like a swarm of angry bees. Thousands of them. Each one carried a nuclear warhead. They flew toward the fleet at incredible speed. Al laughed. Foolish creatures. Their primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Let them waste their ammunition. The missiles hit the front line of ships. Nuclear fire bloomed in space. The explosions were beautiful and terrible, but Al was right. The shields held. Not a single ship was damaged. You see, he said to his officers, they are nothing, they cannot hurt us, they. Then the EMP hit. Every power plant on Earth released its energy at once. A wave of electromagnetic force shot upward into space. It was invisible to the eye, but its effect was immediate. Every shield flickered and died. "What is happening?" Al shouted. "Get the shields back online." "We cannot, Commander. The systems are overloaded. We need 4 seconds to reset." 4 seconds, an eternity in war. The second wave of human weapons arrived. Converted cargo ships flown by suicide pilots, kinetic projectiles, simple tungsten rods accelerated to incredible speeds, missiles that had been hidden behind the first wave. Captain James Stone flew his ship straight at the largest destroyer. He thought of his daughter. He thought of her smile. He thought of the horses she liked to draw. "For Earth," he whispered. His ship hit the destroyer's hull and exploded. The alien vessel broke apart in a ball of fire. Across the fleet, more ships died. The tungsten rods punched through hulls like bullets through paper. The suicide ships found their targets. In 4 seconds, humanity destroyed over 300 warships. The shields came back online. The slaughter stopped, but the damage was done. Al stared at the carnage. Over 300 ships, gone in 4 seconds. Impossible, this was impossible. "Commander," an officer said, his voice shaking, "we have lost 10% of our fleet." "I can see that," Al hissed. "Continue the attack, land the ground forces. We will burn every city on that planet to ash." The invasion began. Dropships fell from the sky like rain. They landed in 6 major cities: New York, London, Moscow, Tokyo, Delhi, and Lagos. Each dropship carried 500 soldiers. Each soldier was 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like stone. They expected terrified civilians. They expected easy victory. They found hell. In New York, the streets were empty. The buildings were silent. The soldiers marched forward, their weapons ready. They did not understand. Where were the humans? Then the first shot came. A sniper on a rooftop, a bullet through a skull. Then more shots, from windows, from doorways, from manholes in the street. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They struck and vanished. They turned every building into a fortress, every street into a killing ground. General Stone commanded the defense of New York. He was the father of Captain James Stone, the pilot who had died in the first attack. He did not have time to mourn. He had a city to protect. "Keep moving," he ordered his troops. "Hit them and run. Never let them pin you down. This is our city. We know every street, every tunnel, every building. Use that knowledge. Make them pay for every inch." In Tokyo, the fight went underground. Japanese soldiers led into the subway tunnels. The aliens were too big, too slow. The narrow tunnels became death traps. Human soldiers with swords and knives fought in the darkness. They moved like ghosts. They killed like demons. In Moscow, the winter came early. The Russians had always been patient. They let the advance into the city. They let them spread out. Then they struck. Every rooftop held a sniper. Every basement held explosives. The frozen streets ran purple with alien blood. In Lagos, the battle was chaos and noise and fury. African soldiers used the crowded buildings, the narrow alleys, the endless markets. They fought with guns and machetes. They fought with courage and rage. They refused to give a single step without a price. They had never faced anything like this. They had conquered 17 species. Not one of them had fought like this. Not one of them had known how to fight like this. But humans did. Humans had been fighting each other for 10,000 years. War was in their blood. War was in their bones. They had spent their entire history preparing for exactly this moment. One officer sent a message to the fleet above. His voice was full of fear and confusion. "Commander, these creatures are insane. They do not retreat. They do not surrender. They attack us with primitive weapons and their bare hands. When we kill one, 2 more take its place. I am requesting immediate extraction." Al, the request: "You will hold your position. You will not be defeated by primitives." 3 hours later, that officer was dead. His entire unit was gone. The battle for Earth had begun. and humanity was winning. 6 months had passed since the invasion began. The war was far from over. They still controlled nearly 1/3 of Earth's surface. Their ships still filled the sky. Their soldiers still walked on human soil. But they were losing. High Commander Al sat alone in his quarters. He had not slept in days. The reports from the surface were always the same: casualties, losses, defeat after defeat after defeat. Over 1 million soldiers had died. 1 million of his finest warriors, killed by a species he had called primitive. The Dominion Council had refused to send more. The war was costing too much. The other conquered systems were growing restless. Al had made a request that no commander had ever made before. He had asked for permission to negotiate. The Council's answer was simple: win or die trying. On Earth, humanity was growing stronger. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, in a hidden facility carved from solid rock, the greatest scientific minds in the world worked on a secret project. They had captured technology during the fighting: ships, weapons, computers. They had taken everything apart and studied it. Doctor led the team. She had not left the facility in 4 months. She had not seen the sun. She had not spoken to her family. She had only worked. And finally, she had succeeded. "It is done," she announced to the assembled generals. "We have built it, humanity's first starship." The ship was called the UES Defiance. It was not pretty. It was a rough combination of human and alien technology. Parts of it were welded together. Parts of it were held by hope and prayer. But it worked. Captain was chosen to command it. She was a Japanese pilot who had fought in the Tokyo underground. She had lost her brother in the first week of the invasion. She had a scar across her face from a blade. She was perfect for the job. She stood on the bridge of the Defiance and looked at her crew. 50 men and women from 12 different countries. Engineers, soldiers, scientists, all of them volunteers, all of them ready to die. "Our mission is simple," she told them. "We are going to leave Earth. We are going to find the supply lines, and we are going to cut them. Without supplies, their fleet will starve. Without their fleet, their ground forces will fall." The Defiance launched from a secret base in Antarctica. It climbed through the atmosphere, past the ships, into the darkness of space. The aliens did not notice. They were too focused on the war below. The ship was gone for 3 weeks. When it returned, it brought stories of victory. Had found the supply lines, cargo ships carrying food, weapons, and soldiers for the invasion. She had destroyed 12 of them. The largest was 5 times the size of the Defiance. It had not mattered. Humans were better fighters. Humans were more creative. Humans were willing to take risks that they could not understand. On Earth, the news spread like fire. Humanity had a starship. Humanity was fighting back. Humanity was winning. The counterattack began. Admiral Wei planned 3 massive operations. Operation Prometheus would retake Europe. Operation Phoenix would liberate Asia. Operation Rebirth would push them back to their final stronghold. The battles were brutal. Cities that had been ruins became again. Soldiers who had been fighting for 6 months found new strength. Civilians who had been hiding joined the fight. In Paris, human tanks rolled through streets where Nazi tanks had once marched. In Berlin, soldiers raised the United Earth flag over the same building where flag had once flown. In Beijing, warriors from a dozen nations fought side by side against the alien invaders. One by one, the cities fell, not to humanity. General Stone led the final assault on the base in Antarctica. It was the last place on Earth where alien soldiers stood. 10,000 troops protected by shields and walls and weapons. Stone had 20,000 soldiers from every nation on Earth. He had tanks and planes and missiles. He had the Defiance providing support from orbit. He had something else too. He had rage. His son had died in the first battle of the war. His wife had died when they bombed Chicago. He had lost everything. All he had left was the fight. Today we finish this, he told his troops. Today we take back our world. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. The attack began at dawn. It was the largest battle in human history. Explosions shook the ice. The sky turned black with smoke. Blood stained the snow red and purple. By sunset, it was over. The commander was captured alive. He was brought before Admiral in chains. "Why?" the alien asked. "Why do you fight so hard? You cannot defeat the Dominion. Even if you win here, our empire will return with 1,000 fleets." Looked at him with cold eyes. "Then we will defeat 1,000 fleets. And when those are gone, we will come for you. You made one mistake, Commander. You gave humanity a reason to unite. You gave us a common enemy. And now—" He leaned close. "Now we are never going to stop." The alien had no answer. For the first time in his life, he understood what fear truly meant. The war for Earth was over, but the war for humanity was just beginning. In the year after the liberation, everything changed. The factories that had built weapons now built starships. The soldiers who had fought in the streets now trained for battles among the stars. The scientists who had cracked technology now improved it. Humanity was no longer a species trapped on one small planet. Humanity was a force that would shake the galaxy. The United Earth Fleet grew faster than anyone had expected. The Defiance was joined by new ships: the Resolve, the Vengeance, the Indomitable, the Never Surrender. Each one was larger and more powerful than the last. Each one was crewed by humans hungry for justice. Admiral Wei stood before the United Nations one final time. He was old now. The war had taken years from his life, but his eyes still burned with fire. "They took our people," he said. "They burned our cities, they killed our children, they thought we would break, they thought we would kneel." He paused. "They were wrong." The crowd cheered, but raised his hand for silence. "We cannot stop here. They are still out there. Their dominion still enslaves 17 worlds. Billions of beings live under their rule just as we almost did. We have two choices. We can stay here behind our defenses and wait for them to come again, or we can take the fight to them." His voice rose. "I say we fight. I say we free every world they have conquered. I say we tear down their dominion and make sure they can never threaten anyone again." The vote was unanimous: total war. The fleet launched 3 months later, 200 ships carrying 100,000 soldiers. Captain commanded the Defiance at the front of the formation. She had become a legend among her people. The woman who had struck first. The woman who had shown humanity the way to the stars. The first colony fell in 2 days. The aliens could not believe what they were seeing. The primitives had come to them. The primitives were attacking their territory. It was impossible. But it was happening. Humans were not gentle conquerors. They remembered what they had done to Earth. They remembered the dead cities and the mass graves. They remembered the screams of the dying. They showed no mercy. The second colony fell in a week, the third in 3 days. Word spread through the Dominion. The humans were coming. The humans could not be stopped. Species that they had conquered for centuries saw their chance. Rebellions erupted on a dozen worlds. Slaves rose against their masters. The Dominion began to crack. High Commander Al had escaped Earth. He had returned to his to face the Council. They had stripped him of his rank. They had called him a failure. They had laughed at his warnings about the humans. They were not laughing now. The human fleet appeared in the sky above the 300 ships. The Dominion threw everything they had at them. It was not enough. Admiral himself led the attack. He was too old for battle, his doctors said. He did not care. He had been there at the beginning. He would be there at the end. The battle lasted 7 days. Ships fell like rain. Their great cities burned. Their ancient monuments crumbled to dust. On the 7th day, the Council sent a message. They wanted to surrender. His response was simple: unconditional. The ceremony took place in the ruins of the Dominion's capital. Secretary General was there. She was old now, her hair white as snow, but she stood straight and proud as the last leader knelt before her. "Your war is over," she said. "Your dominion is finished. The species you conquered are free, and your people will never threaten the galaxy again." The leader looked up at her with hatred in his 4 eyes. "You are monsters," he hissed. "You are worse than we ever were." Shook her head. "No, we are exactly what you made us. You sent a threat to Earth. You tried to conquer us. You killed millions of our people. Did you think we would forget? Did you think we would forgive?" She leaned close to him. "We are humans. We do not forget. We do not forgive. And when someone hurts us, we hurt them back 1,000 times harder. Remember that. Remember it forever." The years passed. The United Earth Federation grew into the most powerful force in the known galaxy, not because humans were cruel or evil, but because every other species knew the truth about them. Do not threaten Earth. Do not harm humans. Do not give them a reason to fight. Because if you do, they will never stop. A generation later, a young asked his grandfather about the war. The old alien was one of the last survivors of the Dominion. He sat in silence for a long time before answering. "We thought they were primitive," he said. "We thought they were weak. We thought conquest would be easy." He closed his 4 eyes. "We were wrong. They were not weak. They were waiting for something to unite them, waiting for an enemy to fight. We gave them that enemy. We gave them purpose. And they became something terrible, something unstoppable." "What are they?" the young asked. The old alien opened his eyes. They were full of fear and respect, and something that might have been awe. "They are the monsters we created. They are the war we could not win. They are humanity." On Earth's moon, a monument stood. It had been built in the first year after the war. It was simple, just black stone and white letters. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see it. They stood in silence and read the words carved into the stone. They sent a threat. We sent an answer. The answer was total war. Below that, a smaller line. "Never again." It was a promise. It was a warning. It was human.